We've talked about them for months. Now it is time to see the class of 2025 out on the grass. Rookie minicamps are underway with 26 teams. We will show you scenes from all of them over the next 60 minutes. That includes the Giants, whose top pick, Abdul Carter, breaking, finally has a number. We'll discuss expectations for him in the Big Apple and what could lie ahead for fellow first-round pick Jackson Dart in a crowded QB room. We also have a special guest tonight who knows a little something about being a high-profile wide receiver in Dallas. So does Dez Bryant think George Pickens has that star power? We will ask him when Dez joins us for an interview. Make sure you catch it because we all know Dez did it. Welcome inside with the Insiders alongside Ian Rappaport. I am Tom Pelissero, 118 days out from the kickoff game for the 2025 NFL season. Just 5 days away for the big schedule release show. That is next Wednesday night. But you know what? This looks, feels, even smells like a football Friday because we got rookie camps all over the NFL. Cam Ward up there in the top left, out there on the field for the first time. Travis Hunter is out there in a Jaguars uniform. We got Will Campbell. We've got Abdul Carter, not pictured from that Giants social post. Their other first-round draft pick, Jackson Dart. New York traded back into the first round, not to go get Shedeur Sanders, but to get this man who they believe could be their quarterback of the future. Dart spoke with reporters after his first practice with some thoughts on being coached by Brian Daboll.
I mean, I think a lot of people have seen, the process a little bit on Hard Knocks, but it's intense. I kind of had an idea coming into it, that I had to make sure that I was on my P's and Q's when I walked in. So it was super fun. I think that at the same time, me and him were able to just form like an organic relationship. And, they definitely tested me, harder than any other, team throughout this process. And, I was just grateful to come here and to take that challenge on and, be around these great coaches.
Let's welcome Steve Weitz into the conversation. Ian, the Giants quarterback offseason has been unique to say the least. Signing Jameis Winston first, signing Russell Wilson, taking stabs at a few other quarterbacks along the way, and then the big trade to get back in the first round and take a quarterback in Jackson Dart who fits the archetype that Brian Daboll envisions at the position. How do you imagine this offseason is going to play out for the Giants, who are hoping finally they've got their franchise guy?
Yeah, first of all, I like how Aaron Rodgers is some other guy. Some other quarterbacks took kind of a dabble. Didn't end up with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. Did end up with Russell Wilson, who I would say is their presumptive starter right now, which is the best case scenario for Jackson Dart. You're right, Tom. The Giants ended up with a quarterback, I think it's fair to say for the first time in several years, that they really, really wanted, selected, ran through the entire process, and have now landed on their team. Jackson Dart is exactly what Brian Daboll has been hoping their quarterback situation would be. And it's not just the on-the-field stuff, although the way he throws the ball, the way he performed in college, the way he performed at the Senior Bowl, the way he performed in those private workouts and pro days and all of that is good. But the other stuff too, kind of the swag, the mental stuff. He mentioned that the Giants, Steve, tested him as much as anyone. In part, among the reasons where the Giants drafted him was how he dealt with that mental stuff, how he responded in those meetings, those grill sessions. There's a lot to like for the Giants and Jackson Dart, and the way their quarterback room is set up now, he does not have to play right away. He can just learn, which might be the best thing of all of it.
Well, it could be. You talk about the swag. What about the ice? Every time we see Jackson Dart, man, he is iced up like, he got diamonds all over the place. But, one thing that's intriguing, you talked about the veterans in that room. Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Jackson Dart. Doesn't it sound like one of those veteran players could end up being traded should Jackson Dart show that he's ready to be the backup? And at some point, if another team needs to be a quarterback, hey guys, we got Jameis Winston up here. We have somebody who's draft capital. Bring back a pick to the Giants, and someone can go help out another team. So they've really insulated themselves in a lot of regards in terms of building their quarterback room for the short term and the future, and also having a player that could also bring them back some assets in terms of trade value, be it Jameis Winston or Russell Wilson.
It's a really interesting point because we have seen quarterbacks get traded before even on one-year deals. Remember years ago, Teddy Bridgewater got traded during camp without playing a game for the New York Jets. I also am reminded of what happened with the Eagles back in 2016, where they were going into the offseason, going all the way through with Sam Bradford. All of a sudden, Teddy Bridgewater is the guy who gets hurt. They end up trading Bradford and rolling with a guy named Carson Wentz, who was playing like an MVP candidate until he hurt his knee. That's, of course, not the only Giants first-round pick here. We also have to talk about Abdul Carter, mainly because in order to practice, he had to put on a new number. It's 51. It's not 56. It's not 11. He could not get either of those numbers. Kyle Brandt suggested on Good Morning Football a few days ago, hey, just smash them together and you create 51. Well, here he is, Dick Butkus, James Farrier, now Abdul Carter wearing that number 51 jersey. In Cleveland, Shedeur Sanders also ended up with a number that he was not previously accustomed to. It's number 12, not the 2 that he wore at the University of Colorado. Some people in Sanders' orbit did not seem overly thrilled that that number was given to DeAndre Carter instead. But when you're a 5th-round pick, you don't necessarily have those options. Dillon Gabriel took the first rep up, the 3rd-round pick, ahead of Shedeur Sanders in rookie camp, although Kevin Stefanski says don't read too much into anything at this time of year.
There's plenty of reps. There's a lot of time between now and September, so we'll have a plan, but it's an all-encompassing evaluation. It's not something that is just based on the practice reps. There's a lot that goes into it.
I'm struck by, Ian, in just flipping around channels today while working out, and you've got debates about, is Shedeur going to be a Pro Bowler? Is Shedeur QB1? The NFL's social accounts posting Shedeur Sanders' first day of practice. This doesn't ever happen with a 5th-round pick. It has created a very unique dynamic, at least in terms of how Kevin Stefanski has to approach this, because not only does he have a guy they drafted 2 rounds earlier, Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco are there as well.
Well, and you're right. I mean, this is not the treatment that most first-rounders get. I mean, maybe like number 1 overall pick, but this year's number 1 overall pick, definitely not getting that treatment. It is Shedeur Sanders, in part because of the publicity that came to him in his epic draft fall, really one of the most dramatic draft situations we have seen in several years. But this is part of it, Tom. This is part of it. This is part of the reason why a guy who's talented enough to go in the 1st round falls to the 5th round, because if he's not going to be your starter, do you want all of those clicks surrounding a quarterback who is buried on your depth chart? I would also say that none of that actually matters, right? Because the debate about whether or not Shedeur Sanders is going to be a franchise quarterback is almost certainly not going to be answered this year. And the way this is set up, with him being really just a flyer, a lottery ticket for the Browns, they don't have to find anything out. He doesn't need to play. He doesn't need to be forced on the field. He doesn't need to be the backup. Dillon Gabriel may end up as the backup anyway. Shedeur Sanders has an unbelievable luxury. He may not see it like this. I'm sure he doesn't, but he has incredible luxury of not having to do anything his rookie year, just fading into the background as much as possible and just learning.
Oh, hold up. He's got to make the team. He's a 5th-round draft pick. They've already got 3 other quarterbacks, 2 of them who are veterans who started a lot of games, and then Dillon Gabriel, 3rd-round draft pick, who's a good player as well.
True.
We can sit here and say Shedeur's got the luxury of sitting back. He has got to earn a roster spot, because typically teams don't stash quarterbacks on practice squads. Some do, but Shedeur Sanders goes to a practice squad, someone's going to claim him. So he's either got to earn a roster spot or he's going to be on another team's roster. So that's what's intriguing about all of this. I do like Kevin Stefanski coming out and saying, just because Dillon Gabriel got the first shot at reps today, don't put too much into it, because right now they're probably going to get balanced reps. When you need to start paying attention is when they get into the on-field part of OTAs. How many reps is Shedeur Sanders getting then? Because it's Joe Flacco. He's still going to get some. He's got to get acclimated. We know Kenny Pickett's got to get some. Dillon Gabriel's got to get some. If all of a sudden Shedeur Sanders is getting those post-practice reps with the backup wide receivers who want some extra work, that's when you really have to keep an eye on, okay, where is he headed and what is his chance to really make this team?
And nobody's ever questioned the work ethic component with Shedeur Sanders. He is going to put in the time.
Yep.
He wants to be really good at this. Yep. One of the many storylines that come the preseason in particular are going to be fascinating to watch unfold on a network where we happen to broadcast every single one of those preseason games. Shedeur's old teammate Travis Hunter out on the field in uniform for the first time today as well, wearing his familiar number 12, now a member of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and notably, at least in this video, playing wide receiver. That's where it's going to begin for Travis Hunter, though they're also going to integrate him on defense. Man, he dances a lot. Mason Taylor also out on the field for the first time, the son of one-time Jets defensive end Jason Taylor, who probably would be preferred to be known for his time with some other teams, but did play for the Jets. Mason now out there in a new number that he said, hey, they just gave me this and I really don't care. That's a refreshing thing to hear. Cam Ward, no surprise, the number 1 overall pick, and he is indeed number 1 in their hearts and number 1 on the score sheet for the first time, the number 1 overall pick, whose placement in this segment probably tells you how much we've actually talked about Cam Ward. Yes, he's out there. They're not declaring him QB1 yet, but all indications are it will go that direction. Will Campbell also out on the field, the Patriots top draft pick, participating in Patriots rookie minicamp. He is yet to sign his rookie contract. That is not uncommon. But in rookie camps, unlike in training camp, you can sign a participation agreement that allows you to be out on the field. Colston Loveland did already sign his contract with the Chicago Bears, one of the many toys that new head coach Ben Johnson is going to be playing with. As Colston knows well, Ben has a bit of a reputation for creativity.
I'm a big fan. I love his spirit, his energy. He's super determined. He's ready to go. He's ready to take this thing to the top. And he's no nice guy. I see him getting on butt and getting on people's butts and but fired up too. Super excited. Yeah, I'm loving how he coaches. It's early, and I'm excited to play for him.
Steelers rookies also in the building for their rookie camp. I love this. I want more slow motion shots of guys wearing socks under sandals getting off the bus. This is what gets the juices flowing at this time of year. Also, you know what else helps? Trading a top wide receiver a couple of days before that rookie minicamp. That's what the Steelers did, sending George Pickens to Dallas in exchange for a 2026 third-round pick. Teams also flopping late-round picks in 2027. That did raise a lot of questions, at least from Steelers fans, about exactly what the plan is. GM Omar Khan answered some of those questions today.
We just kind of talked about it, lots of serious conversation, honest conversations, and we just felt that a fresh start for both sides was the right thing. We wouldn't have done this if we didn't feel good about this receiver situation, about our depth here. I know people make the comparison about last year. It's not even close to being the same. Like, we made the investment with DK. We've had another year with some of the young guys and gotten to know them, watch them develop. We had a Robert Woods. Roman's healthy. I've seen him the last couple weeks out here and how he's doing. And we saw how he was progressing at the end of last year. Obviously, he didn't get the chance to get on the field, but there was some excitement there. But we have a good group. There's some guys that are back, and we've seen their growth and have another year under our belt with them and feel good about it.
Ian, that quote from Omar Khan saying a fresh start is good for everyone probably is telling, because on one hand, you have George Pickens, the person who nobody says he's a bad guy, but he had tardiness issues in terms of meetings. There were a couple of games where he showed up after the 90-man cutoff for turning in inactives. There were the personal foul. It sounds like it took a lot of energy out of the building. On the other side of it is a really, really talented player who can make some unbelievable catches. Now he's going to be doing that in Dallas.
Well, there's so many things here, guys, and Omar Khan being pretty transparent and addressing all of them earlier today. We'll start with the part that to me seems the most relevant. Is it does seem like they are hoping that it is addition by subtraction. And I'm not saying that George Pickens took away from the room, but you're right, it was a lot. It was a lot of energy from coaches and other people around the team and around the building. It was a lot of energy from reporters. He was essentially a lightning rod, in part because he is so unbelievably talented that you wanted to get the very best out of him on the field. But there's so many other weapons that we just haven't really seen. And that's kind of the other part, which is that the Steelers' depth of receiver, I mean, obviously DK we know, Steve, but the Steelers' depth of receiver we really haven't seen. And this is a vote of confidence for all the guys in the locker room who may not have been everything you wanted last year, but get better, and you hope to see them getting better on the field this year for the Steelers.
And you're right. Ian, when Omar Khan said it's a good fresh start for everybody, that means they want to exhale, get him out of the building. We know that we just signed DK Metcalf to a deal that's paying him $30 million a year. George Pickens is going to want something in that range if he has the type of season that he's capable of. And they knew that could get sticky as well. So go ahead and get him out, get some trade compensation, give Dallas a really good player to go with CeeDee Lamb, and let's see how this is going to work offensively, especially how Aaron Rodgers fits in, because I don't think they're done adding to that receiver room. And if Aaron Rodgers does show up, they'll probably add one of his buddies or someone that he's familiar with to that wide receiver room.
They've also got Calvin Austin, who they like a lot. Yep. They signed Robert Woods. They got Roman Wilson, a third-round pick last year, who really didn't play because of injuries. They're hopeful they get something there as well. And as long as you brought up Aaron Rodgers here, Steve, I would also note, Aaron Rodgers, we know, is very exacting with his wide receivers. He wants to know where you're going to be on the field. Maybe there's some other guys who would be a better fit with him than George Pickens. Get ready for the 2025 NFL season like never before with the highly anticipated NFL schedule release. Every game revealed, every rivalry, every rematch, every rookie debut. Next Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Mark your calendar. Get all the details at NFL.com/schedule release. So much more to come on this rookie minicamp edition of The Insiders, including more discussion about that big George Pickens trade. Does Dez Bryant believe George Pickens can carry on the tradition of Cowboys receivers? We'll ask Dez when he joins us next.
Throws it over the middle to Bryant. They throw a slant to Dez, and he caught it. Dez over the shoulder, dropped it in. Touchdown. Back in the end zone, leaping Bryant. Caught it. Touchdown. And there's your big play.
Welcome back to The Insiders. I'm Steve White, now joined by Jane Slater and that man, number 88, Dez Bryant. Let's all throw up the X to get this party started.
You know what, Dez? I love that when you drive around Dallas, people still love to pull up next to you and throw up the X. Not a lot of people know the origin of that story. Why did you start throwing up the X in the first place?
Oh, man, Jane, just overcoming all of that adversity in my life, and that was part of it. Just believing in myself and just Xing out all the negativity. And the other side of it, letting the defense know, I'm the man to watch.
All right, well, on that note then, you're still a Cowboys guy. No matter, even though you play for the Ravens in the States, you're a Cowboys guy. They just traded for George Pickens. Your thoughts on that deal, him joining CeeDee Lamb now?
Man, I love it. That is unlike the Cowboys. And to see the Cowboys go out and get a playmaker like that says a lot about where they're trying to go this year. There's no more excuses. Fans, including myself, hey, we got to give Mr. Jones, Stephen Jones, Will McClay, all them guys a break. They going out there doing what they're supposed to do to make this team better. They went out and got Dak a hell of a piece. George Pickens, he one of a kind. You put him with CeeDee Lamb, man, that's trouble. That's trouble. That's trouble for defenses.
What do you like about his game, Dez? And then, even some of these comparisons about, he's a young guy, he's emotional, he wants the ball. As someone who had similar criticisms about you and your emotions on the field, what's your defense of Pickens?
I love Pickens' attitude. It's for a guy like Pickens, it's easy for him to be misunderstood. For the guys who actually play the game, that know the game of football, understands exactly where Pickens is coming from. He'll playmaker. He wants the ball. When you got a guy like that with such a raw talent, you got to get him the ball. Pittsburgh, they didn't do a great job of doing that. Matching him up with a guy like CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, with elite offense. I think the sky's up for him. We're going to see this guy do damage.
Yeah, look, this is going to be the best quarterback that George Pickens has played with, so this is going to be an interesting offense. But you talk about a guy who wants the ball. Travis Hunter is the most intriguing rookie in this year's draft class, number 2 to Jacksonville, both sides of the ball. What do you think about Travis Hunter, his talents, and him playing mainly wide receiver to start out with, but also dabbling on defense?
First and foremost, I always thought Travis Hunter was a wide receiver. He's a hell of a playmaker, on both sides of the ball, but I think that's where he shines, in my opinion. As we see that fade right there, it's just one of a kind. Only a certain type of player can make that type of play, and it's not many, and he's one of them. As far as him being, even on the defensive side, his instincts, they're incredible. Like I said, he's one of a kind. So I think he can do both. The Jaguars, they're just going to have to manage a little bit, but I think Travis is going to, go to the league and, just be outstanding on both sides of the ball.
You've got a young 14-year-old Dez Jr. who's coming up in the game. I see some of the great videos of you guys out there. He's playing a little wide receiver and quarterback. What's it like coaching the next kid? Do you think that he's got potential to be in the league? And after watching, Deion Sanders, a guy that played in this league at a high level, and the way that he's coached up and mentored his son, what's your approach with your kid?
Well, I think my approach is when me and my boy out there, I'm less of a father. I think I'm his worst critic. I think by me playing that, role in his life, I think that will get him prepared, for anything, that he might face, not just on the football field, but, in the real world. His path to this is a lot different from mine. My why was a lot different, from his. I struggled. I had something that, that built that dog and that monster in me. With him growing up, having everything that he wants, living, a good life, he got a different why. He got to find that, and that's going to be through different types of hard work and, and motivation. And I think he's been doing a hell of a job of that, beating the challenges that I put in front of him, and, I tell him all the time, you're not living up to me, you're building yourself. We just had the same name. I don't want him filling my shoes. I want him to be better than me. If God said the same, that's what I'm hoping. I hope that's what we see.
I love hearing this, Dez. You saying something like that, you get that time in with your son. One last question before we get out of here, because a lot of teams are starting their rookie mini camps. We know we just had the draft. This notion of rookies who haven't played it down in the NFL asking some of the greatest players in the NFL to unretire their jersey numbers for them. We know in Dallas, they don't retire jersey numbers. But you wore the 88. That's a legacy number. Drew Pearson, Michael Irvin, now CeeDee Lamb has. What are your thoughts on these youngsters coming to the league asking for the number like that?
Oh man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think it's when I see Carter, ask Lawrence Taylor and Phil Simms for those numbers. I think he's doing it with a great, respect to those guys, and I think it's just more motivation. I think it was a more motivational thing for him to be like, I want to be, a Giants. I want to be viewed as a future Giants, legend. So I didn't really see him wrong in it, but the guys respectfully declined, and I think they handled it the right way, and I think Carter's gonna be a legend. I just don't want him performing well against the boys, but I do think he's gonna be a future star. He got all the talent in the world, and I'm wishing him much success, except against the Cowboys.
There you go. He's gonna establish his own number, like you said. Your son is gonna not walk in your shoes, but walk in his. Dez Bryant, Jay Slater, thank you so much. Let's throw it up one more time.
Yes, sir.
Time now for What Are They Thinking? with Adam Rank joining me, Tom Pelissero, and Ian Rappaport here on The Insiders. Just heard Dez Bryant's takeaways from that big George Pickens trade. Adam, I pose this to you. What are they thinking?
Exactly. What are the Pittsburgh Steelers thinking, trading away a talent like George Pickens? And a lot of people are talking about addition by subtraction. Is this not the same team? Please, everybody out there on Bears Reddit, Bears Twitter, the guys who are drinking old style out there in Oswego, stop it. We're keeping all of our players. Please.
Pretty sure they're drinking vodka and milk for the Pope out there tonight, but we'll let that slide. Rank, thank you very much. Look forward to chatting with you again soon. Rookie minicamps rolling on across the NFL, including in Flowery Branch, Georgia, where the Atlanta Falcons added not one, but 2 pass rushers in round 1. Steve White will be back to tell you exactly what Atlanta is expecting to get and a whole lot more. That's next on The Inside. And Jalen Walker to the list of first-round picks who have already signed their rookie contracts. The Falcons and Walker agreeing to terms earlier today. One of the 2 pass rushers Atlanta added in round 1 of the draft. And boy, is Raheem Morris excited to not answer those questions anymore.
That's got to change. And the only way you can change that is to change that. And that was a part of the process, very intentional, going out and trying to fix the edge room. And very intentional to go out and fix our rush to find, another Terry Given to find pressure players. And we're very intentional to be able to do that. And we were able to do that in the first round with those 2 guys that we were to add there, to be able to get those guys going, to be able to add Leonard Floyd within free agency, to give us some things there, to add 3 guys that were not here last year that you expect to have significant roles in your pass rush and your pressure play.
Welcome back to The Insiders. Tom Pelissero, Ian Rappaport, and Steve White. Steve, you were very close to that Falcons organization. You know Raheem Morris. You know that this was probably the storyline, besides the whole quarterback thing, around that team for the past couple of years. When are they going to get a pass rusher? They got 2. What do they expect?
Well, and they give one of them Julio Jones' number, since we're talking about jersey numbers. I'm sorry, too soon for me. But anyway, Jalen Walker, number 11, and getting James Pierce as well. It's about time. Right, the Atlanta Falcons have not had a consistent pass rusher. Everyone in Atlanta knows this since John Abraham. He hasn't played in 15 years. So to go out and get 2 players who can affect the game off the corners, you only have to play them situationally right now. As Raheem Morris just mentioned, they got the veteran Leonard Floyd. They've got Arnold Ebiketie there as well. What's interesting right now is Jalen Walker. He was mainly an off-the-ball type of player. They're going to keep working him more and more at edge, but he's going to be one of these hybrid guys like Abdul Carter moving around a little bit. Now you got James Pierce. He's more of a true rush guy. But the one thing about him, here you're seeing on video rushing off the left end, he can also rush up the right end, and he can reduce inside the tackle. So the one thing Raheem Morris got in these 2 rush players off the edge are also 2 guys who are going to allow him to game and mix up packages to really confuse offenses. They just have to hope that these guys can produce early. And look, if you get 4 sacks from each of those guys, that's 2 more sacks than any individual player got last year for the Falcons. So if you get 2 for the price of 1, 1 for the price of 2, however you want to spin it, it should be better than what they've had consistently when it comes to an individual sack play.
Yeah, and no matter what happens, Steve, they're not going to go into the trade deadline now being like, got to get an edge, got to get an edge. Those questions at least have been addressed. One question that has not yet been addressed is the future of Kirk Cousins, although I think it's fair to say drafted, free agency's come and gone. The draft has come and gone. As of right now, it certainly appears Kirk Cousins is set to be their backup quarterback for the 2025 season. Obviously, if any team needs a quarterback with starting experience, that would also, by the way, include the Pittsburgh Steelers if Aaron Rodgers doesn't go there. Cousins would be the first call, which is why we're going to be talking about Kirk Cousins all the time. This coming preseason, this coming actual season, every time a quarterback gets hurt, the Falcons are going to be like, hello, look at the guy we got. Maybe could get a potential premium draft pick for a guy who is now their backup. All that conversation for the future. As of right now, Cousins at least set in Atlanta.
Currently a $27.5 million backup quarterback in Atlanta. Stay tuned for the end of that saga. Elsewhere in the NFC South, Emeka Egbuka also signing his rookie contract, participating in the Bucs rookie minicamp today. Another weapon for Baker Mayfield and company down there in Tampa. Bryce Young also got a new playmaker. T-Mac McMillan, Tedero McMillan, signing his rookie contract officially. He, too, took part in mini-camp today. A little bit more dynamic NFC South, which is kind of what happens when you're drafted in the top half of the first round repeatedly. Coming up, a lot more on the Insiders, not just from rookie camps, but how about a little bit of fantasy spin? We'll go back to Atlanta and talk to Adam Rank. Is this the year you should draft Kyle Pitts? Seriously, is this it? Rank will tell you. His answer might surprise you. That's next on the Inside.
Get ready for the 2025 NFL season like never before with the highly, highly anticipated NFL schedule release.
Obviously, it did not work out the way that we wanted it to. I think a lot of it, Kirk was still coming back from a devastating injury, and it took it just not the same player. I think with Michael Penix there, you can give Kyle Pitts an opportunity. If I miss out on one of the elite tight ends, Kyle Pitts is going to be a player that I'm looking at.
Why don't you tell me about a player we've sort of tangentially talked about this show and really every show for the past week, CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, the Cowboys added George Pickens. Perhaps you heard. Perhaps you talked about it. How does this affect CeeDee Lamb in your mind?
Well, a lot of people ask this question, Ian, because they're concerned. They're like, hey, is George Pickens going to end up funneling a lot of targets away from him? Is it going to hurt CeeDee Lamb? I actually really like this for CeeDee Lamb. I think having a dynamic playmaker on the opposite side of you, there are a few players in the NFL who stretch the field like George Pickens does. So if George Pickens is out there for 17 games, 15 games, whatever it is, out there stretching the field, there is a real opportunity that CeeDee Lamb goes back up to being the number one wide receiver in fantasy football like he was 2 seasons ago. Wow. Took a little bit of a step back last year, which is fine. That happens. Love it for CeeDee Lamb. And honestly, I don't honestly believe people talk enough about Dak Prescott. When you talk about quarterbacks who are unnecessarily maligned for no reason, Dak Prescott is that guy. I honestly, he's a great quarterback, and everybody acts like he can't play the game. I think it'd be great for Dak Prescott, and if I get an opportunity, if you're waiting on a quarterback, one of the top guys to wait on and go out and draft would be Dak Prescott.
Wow, wasn't even scheduled to be a topic in this segment. Still get a little Dak love. All right, give me one more. We spent the end of last year, obviously as it pertains to Cincinnati Bengals, talking about Chase Brown, which shows you his importance. How does he fit into your rankings?
Yeah, this is a player that's being undervalued in fantasy drafts so far. And believe it or not, fantasy drafts are happening. But at the end of last year, going from about weeks 9 through 17, Chase Brown was the running back 4 and just had an absolutely tremendous year. He averaged around 24 touches a game. He was getting about 116 total yards. And this was something going into last season when I do my State of the Franchise feature. I had Dan Ord on, and we were talking about this, and I'm like, listen, I'm putting my neck out there for Chase Brown. Dan, please tell me that he's going to come through. He gave me the green light. I fired in on Chase Brown last year. It paid off. You had to be a little bit patient, but this year, you got to jump in on Chase Brown. That was not a mirage. He's going to come back out and kill it once again.
Frank, I made fun of you earlier in the segment for hating everyone. We don't hate you. We love you. Come back again. Always great stuff. Thank you very much for hanging out with us on a Friday night. We're not done yet. We're not done. Did you guys know that the Kansas City Chiefs have won the AFC West every year since football was created? That's basically the stat. Well, the 3 other teams in their division started rookie minicamp today. Let's figure out if anyone can dethrone them.
Rookie minicamp's underway for 26 NFL teams today, and the number 22 pick, Omarion Hampton, on the field for the first time in a Chargers uniform. This, like the other 364 days a year, probably the favorite one on the calendar for Chargers coach Jim Harbaugh.
This is a weekend, this is a day and a weekend of evaluation. Really just mining for gold, diamonds, gems, and like those rare gems, they don't just hop out of the ground and into your pocket. You got to dig. You got to go in there and find them. So that's what I want to do today, top of the list as a coach, and let the players know that they can make it known, by their talent and their effort. Scream to us through that they want to be a Charger.
Sorry, it just gets me every time. How about this? The Raiders, that's Jackson Powers Johnson introducing himself to a guy he's going to be blocking for, Ashton Jeanty. Big moves for the Raiders in this offseason, including adding another playmaker. Welcome back to the Insiders. Tom Pelissero joined once again by Steve White. Steve, the Chiefs have been winning the division every year since Patrick Mahomes was still playing baseball at Texas Tech, but there's a lot of moving and shaking over these past couple of years in that division.
Yeah, look, but three of these teams went to the playoffs last year, so let's start with the Chargers. And you saw Jim Harbaugh talking about mining for gold, finding those gems. A player who's interesting to look out for is an undrafted quarterback, DJ Uiagalelei. Remember, he was a 5-star recruit coming out, started at Clemson, Washington State, Florida State. Now he's there trying to be the backup to Justin Herbert if he makes the roster. Let's see if they can mine him. We know they really upgraded talent at running back and at wide receiver. They've got to score points. Now let's go to the Raiders. You saw Ashton Jeanty right there. We know Pete Carroll wants to run the football. But they're another team that upgraded the talent at wide receiver with some of the moves that they've made. Drafting Jack Besh, Dante Thornton, and then Tommy Mellott, a former quarterback out of Montana State. They're hoping he can be their lad McConkey to help them get some points on the board. Now let's also go to another team. Last Denver Broncos surprised everyone. Bo Nix comes out, plays very well. let's not forget, they added Evan Ingram and they added rookie running back, the running back out of Central Florida. 2 players, kind of the Alvin Kamara and the move tight end type. Perfect for Sean Payton's offense. RJ Hart.
Steve, thank you very much. A lot more to come here on the Insiders, including another rookie making his debut on the field. It's the Colts first rounder, Tyler Warren. He got paid. He got a number. He's got long hair. Let's talk about him and a lot more next. You thought we were going to talk about the Giants rookies without showing you Cam Scadaboo? Look at him. Colonel Sanders would love those thighs, wearing number 44 in a Giants uniform for the first time at rookie camp today. Tyler Shuck, rookie quarterback out of Louisville, also making his debut in a Saints uniform. The second-round quarterback, potentially a Week 1 starter. And in Minnesota, their top pick, offensive lineman Donovan Jackson, getting warmed up, getting the slow-mo treatment. The bigger the man, the better he looks in slow-mo. Look at those up-downs. Even stretchy looks exciting when you got a guard moving in slow motion. Welcome back to the Insiders. Tom Pelissero, Ian Rappaport, Steve Weitz. What is the thing that you would love to be shown doing in slow motion?
It's fast motion, slow motion. I'm wishing all the mothers happy Mother's Day this weekend. Let's not forget about that. Very important.
What? It's Mother's Day?
You want to order
weekend?
some stuff?
Well, how does it go so fast every year? I just don't understand.
You're going to be fine. Have a good weekend, everybody. See you Monday.